Thoughtless casual gaming. Thoughtless casual gaming. Thoughtless casual gaming. Thoughtless casual gaming. You know exactly where we're going.
I wasn't looking in the right spot, though.
Well, that's
I was looking at the little camera of me, and my beard's getting big.
It is getting very long and luscious,
I had it plaited the other day. It was interesting. Oh,
that is the correct term to use.
Hello, you are listening to Thoughtless Casual Gaming with Brett and Jace. We are a Geelong-based watching TV podcast where we watch TV
enthusiast.
badly. Yeah, you're here. You know what we are. This is episode 4 of season 3 or year 3, whatever we want to call it. It's also
3 years.
It's also episode 40.
Holy shit! We have as many episodes as I am old.
You youngin'.
All right, kids these days.
We are doing this remotely again because
who the fuck knows who has Rona?
This is just a really fucking weird scenario. Like Tricky Dicky has shut down Throw the Dice for the moment because he's come back positive. Happened to do that the day after I was there. People at work are getting it. I was pretty certain I probably had it this morning, but then my lovely wife ran a rat test into me and apparently I'm negative. So we're being safe. We're being responsible.
Yeah,
we're doing all of the
whole thing
the
is
right
just
things.
Too fucking hard to navigate. But we're here. Ish.
We are here.
Well, I mean, we're both in different places, but we're both here as well.
I'm here. You're there.
Well, are you though?
I am.
You sure?
Pretty sure.
The important thing is we're both here in spirit.
No, but you're there.
In spirit.
You're there in spirit.
It's spirit. How do you know I'm not here in spirit?
But I'm here. Okay,
yeah,
I can see you. You're there.
I know, but the spirit, where is that?
Oh, dear.
Unless you see dead people and other such things.
Anywho, yep. We thought we'd mix it up a little bit today because
our hobby has been mixed up, to be honest.
Our hobby has been mixed up. Our gaming has been mixed up. It's been a weird year already so far. And, we are trying to do the right thing. Everybody's trying to do the right thing. It just means that doing the right thing means less gaming, which is kind of annoying. Hopefully that'll clears up soon. But, I think we've probably got another little bit before that does. But, so games haven't really happened. Hobby, for me, it's been pretty much 2 tenths of fuck all. The motivation, my hobby mojo has just completely vanished this year. Everything else going on, the stress is going on. It's just not happened. I have painted 3 Dungeon Ball chests, and I started painting the Khorne Blood Bowl team, which are really cool. There's 12 models, and I'm doing them in a very nice, easy style. Completely, here's a tie-in for the current painting competition that we've got going on. So 2 colors, black and white. And realistically, if I sat down and really tried hard, I could probably whack the team out in about 2 nights. Of the 12 models, I've done 1. And I've done the first stage on the other 11, and I've done the second stage on one of those 11. And then there's another 6 stages after that. So at the current rate, I should be finished by Feb.
We'll 23.
23.
Yeah.
It's
Look, the
just
hobby measure, it ebbs, it flows, it comes, it goes, it giveth, it taketh away. Yeah, it's, and I feel like with everything going on with, work and life and what are we allowed to do, what aren't we allowed to do?
Mhm.
I mean, I've had a few conversations with people saying it's actually more stressful to navigate at the moment than when we're in full lockdown, because at least when we're in full lockdown, I knew what I was allowed to do, what I was
Exactly.
supposed to do. And right now I just feel like everything I do is a judgment call, and it's a really poorly informed judgment call.
Yes. Totally agree. And I had the same conversation with HR this morning. I was like, how, and I literally said, how anal are we supposed to be? Because I've got symptoms. They could mean anything.
Yeah. I could just not have had enough caffeine today, or
I might not have slept properly, or whatever the case may be. So,
yeah, I
I'm
wake up every
finding
single
that.
morning and go, am I old or are these symptoms? I
A
mean, it could be
little from
both.
column A, a little from
Yeah.
column B.
Yeah. Which one is it? Am I mildly dehydrated or do I have COVID? Like, I don't know.
So, yeah,
These are
no,
the
I get
things we
it.
deal with. But
It's stressful.
all that stuff does really take away from the hobby excitement and the ability to sit down and just focus and enjoy that. So I get it.
Mm.
It's rough.
I've had 2 nights this week where I've pretty much been in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Fuck, I should do that. I feel like I'd feel so much better for it. He
You'd
says,
think
looking at the
so.
clock, going, it's 9 o'clock. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Not going to happen tonight.
Not today,
And,
Satan.
and with Rainbow Six being released sometime soon, it's not going to happen tomorrow either for me.
I
But
do like rainbows.
I do like rainbows.
So
And I like
colourful.
sixes. And I like nines. And I like them together in a Rainbow Six kind of way. Anywho, so like literally that's all the hobby I've done. It's
All right.
it's been a little bit more on the purchasing side than it has been on the hobby side.
All right. Well, let's dive right into that then. So, what have you spent?
Well, I have pre-ordered. Let's say I have not spent. I have pre-ordered. So I've been mucking around a little bit with the idea of Dungeon Bowl teams.
Yes.
I put together the College of Shadows. So I have, thanks to you, with coming to the aid of some little goblin linemen, I have a full College of Shadows team undercoded, ready to go. And I was thinking, well, that's not going to be enough. I don't like
Correct.
limiting myself to one. So which one grabbed me next? It was the College of Death for some reason.
So the $1 million question is because you backed a undead Kickstarter.
A necro team.
That's right. Okay, so it's a necro team.
It's a necro team. So there are ghouls in that. There are, werewolves, but they don't count for this.
They would count for beasts, though.
Yes,
Just
yes.
saying.
So if I do split up the necro team, then that's that aspect of beasts covered as well. So I was thinking that the golems, the 2 golems that came in that necro team, are just amazing models. So yeah, I was kind of leaning towards that, and I kind of like the shambling undead that GW have put out. So I did pre-order those through our good friend Richard. About Throw the Dice. You may have heard of them. You may have listened to a certain podcast where we chatted ad nauseum about the Nerd Fairy. And while I was there, I also pre-ordered the new Nurgle dice, which are coming out, because for some reason, when they first originally came out, I didn't get them.
I'm sorry, who are you?
I don't know.
What is going on here?
Nurgle
I won't stand for
dice.
this.
Why aren't they mine? So now that they're being re-released, and I think they look better.
Absolutely will be. They're brighter, if anything.
I think that's what I was playing around with last time. I think last time they came out and they were a little bit too close to another set that I already had. So I think that's what swayed me against them last time.
Well, they fixed that.
Yeah. Good old GW. And then the other thing, which I have technically pre-ordered, although technically doesn't exist yet, but will exist early Feb, is the new Zombicide version. Marvel Zombies.
So you pulled the trigger.
Yeah, look, I have put myself down as a backer for the base set.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long it's going to last before I pull the plug and upgrade to the one above
Expansion.
that. Yeah, because I mean the base set you play as pretty much the Avengers as zombies.
Yes.
So why do I want to limit myself to just playing as the zombies when I can get the expansion and play as the heroes as well as the zombies?
I haven't actually looked into it, and I know they talked about playing as the heroes in the expansion piece.
Mm-hmm.
But do you get the stuff in the base set that lets you play as the heroes as well?
No.
Ooh.
That's the thing. Like there was one, and I think I saw it was like an update or something, which I saw which said X-Men expansion required to play as hero.
Right.
I mean,
I think that wasn't clear from my very brief scanning.
yeah. So, and I think you definitely need to because I mean, this is a cool mini or not. I come on Kickstarter, and the one thing that they do is an absolute truck ton of Kickstarter exclusive extras that you get.
Absolutely.
And they've been releasing a few here and there. You know, it's only been live for a couple of days, and I think there's like 8 or 9 of them that have been unlocked, maybe more. But they're bringing out like hero versions and zombie versions of a lot of these characters.
Yeah.
So if I don't want half of those models to be semi-useless,
Well, they would still be available to play as, bosses if you're the
you'd
zombie.
think so.
I would hope.
But do I want to risk that? That's the question.
I mean, do you just want the option is the other half of it? And also, let's be honest, who am I talking to here? Do you want the X-Men?
I know that's the real question. And the answer is yes.
That's not a question. That is
there. So happy about that. The other thing I have pre-ordered too is the prize for our last December giveaway. So that should be in my hot little hands as soon as Throw the Dice opens again. And then we'll pass straight into Lockie's hands because he was the Patreon of the month that won it. He had, because he's a Patreon, he gets 2 entries into every giveaway that we do. And it paid off. So
yeah, because it was the second one that won it. If you only had one, it definitely would not have happened.
True.
We totally know that. Yeah.
But that's me.
All right. Well, look, I can definitely talk a little bit about. This is the time of year that purchases can happen, and a lot of this. Look, things happened, mistakes were made, decisions. Anyhow, look, if we start at the start here, I was in at Throw the Dice before it shut down temporarily for deep cleaning. And the interesting, literally the only thing I picked up at that point in time with some measure of restraint, I'll stop for everyone's applause right there.
I don't believe you for a second, though.
I was looking at a few of the different AK diorama effects and terrains effects and stuff that they've got.
Ooh, are you going to enter into this competition?
Look, maybe.
Excellent.
I'm not actually sure that what I bought will make it into my entry, but anywho, so I picked up. It was actually really funny. I was looking, and they've got all these kind of like sand effects, which is basically like a thick kind of medium thing with color and gravel in it. So it comes out pre-colored, pre-textured, and a little bit sculptable. Sculptable, so you can shape it and stuff. And I'm looking at it, and they've got desert sand, and this is basically what I was looking at. And I looked a little bit further along, and they had sandy desert.
Desert sand and sandy desert.
There's desert sand. There's sandy desert.
Ooh.
And then there was beach sand. and I was trying to work out which one of these sand effects I actually wanted, or whether I needed to combine them into. Anyway, so after
I don't like
much.
sand. It's coarse and it gets everywhere.
Oh, yeah, look, I'm going to be getting out. So, look, I literally picked up one of them, Desert Sand, and giving that a bit of a crack on a couple of bases. I just really like the idea of easy mode, to be honest,
Yep.
some days. Quick update on that, and I will get to that. But look, it goes on really easy. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It probably doesn't have enough variation in color, shade, texture, all that kind of stuff. But I think it will be easy enough to add a little bit of shade, a little bit of color variation, maybe a bit of a dry brush just to lift it a bit, a couple of tufts. Honestly, you could smash that all over a base and call it done if you wanted to. So easy to work with, does exactly what it says on the tin. I think the key would probably be mixing their products and combining them. But then you have to buy all of them. And I was trying to avoid doing that.
I have one of them. Like I got
Mhm.
a one in a Hobby Homies comp at some point. The dark and dry crackle effects.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't know how to use it. I tried it once on a base and it looked like the same as the base, but a little bit crackly, and then just sort of came off in my hands a bit. So I've got to play around with it a bit more.
Yeah.
And technically not open it and just spill it over my show notes, but that's fine. Continue.
Look, I've got a couple. I've got a couple of the snow ones that I actually really rate.
It looks like ice magic on my hands. Anyway, go on.
How good is ice magic? Anywho, so that was step one, aka Desert Sand. In the world of 3D printing, and this will maybe if I get around to it, come up in a Patreon piece, the article that I'm putting together at the moment, that may or may never see the light of day. So historically, bit of background. Way back when, my old man was heavy into the old horror. Your Boris Karloffs, that kind of, your old Draculas, Wolfmans, all that kind of stuff. And he used to have a lot of the old vinyl statues kicking around that he'd painted and all that kind of stuff. And he was kind of the one that first got me into the hobby, albeit with, model aeroplanes and that kind of shit. Either way, his birthday coming up, and I saw on one of my good friends, Adam, who runs Adra Labs, at his place, he had this 3D print of an old school classic Wolfman sitting there. And I asked him about it. He goes, yeah, it was a free file. And I went, I think I would like one of those. So currently I have on my painting desk, currently primed, and that's about as far as I've got, a rather large Wolfman. And when I say rather large in the scale of miniature games.
Oh yeah.
So he's
probably
hefty. He's probably 3 Space Marines tall, because that is the standard unit of measure. So that is currently on the table as project number 1 that I'm trying to get done before Dad's birthday in February. So picked that up from Adam, which was super cool. And a couple of friends pitched in and picked me up a voucher for my birthday in December. And so I went a little bit silly on that. And I didn't go silly because they gave me the cash, so I just spent it, right?
Yeah.
But I may have splurged a little bit more on the Scale 75 artist paints. So I bought, several. Another 10, 12 or so of them, some AK streaking grime. It turns out my favorite brushes are the Raphael 8404s. Swear by them, they're amazing. But it turns out Raphael do other styles of brush. So I discovered it at an 8408, and I'm like, I need to find out what the difference is. So we bought one of these.
That's obviously 4.
Well, it turns out that it's kind of a longer, finer, thinner bristle. The other ones are kind of a little bit fatter and short. Anyway, we'll see. I think it could be good for detail and stuff. But I'm like, I definitely need to try that. So shit ton of paints and a brush and some streak and grime later. There goes $150.
Wow.
in paint. And then I had to show them what I'd bought and hope that they weren't disappointed because none of them are actual nerds. So
So
it,
they don't know how
they
much it
had
costs.
no idea how much anything costs. That's cool. Other stuff that happened, actually, here's the other thing that I got caught. This was a separate occasion at Throw the Dice, so I still did show restraint the first time.
The second
But
time, not so much.
I had look. I'm still only buying one thing at a time. I'm maintaining some level of control. I'd been talking to Rich about different paint ranges and stuff for a while, and things I wanted to try, and ones I hadn't, and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm a bit of a sucker for trying out different things, and different hobby supplies and paints and all that kind of shit. And I'd heard good things about the AK third gen acrylic paint line, just their standard everyday paints. And much to my excitement and chagrin, all in one, he got some of the AK paint sets in. So I did pick up what was the Night Creatures paint set, because they all come in these funky little boxes. So there's like a non-metallic metal gold and a silver, like one, and then there's a skin tones, and there's they reds and a greens and all that kind of stuff. The Night Creatures was cool. It kind of comes with a black or white, this kind of dead, skinny, bony color, and a couple of sort of purpley reds.
Mm-hmm.
So some
Any
difference. There is a magenta. Does that count? I mean, it's pretty pink. If I pull that out, like
it's possible.
It is passably pink. So I've been having a little bit of a play with them and just seeing what they are like and whether I like them, because eventually a pot of paint here will run out and I need to make a decision about whether I'm going to replace it with exactly the same pot of paint it was, or whether I'm going to start shuffling. So, I mean, I've got a lot of Vallejo game and model color in my collection, which I rate. But as they kind of wear out, dry out, get used, all that stuff, the question is will I replace it with another Vallejo, or will I shift to AK? And it's up there. It's still a decision that needs to be made. But turns out reasonably good paint.
Decent pricing.
Yeah, I think the little sets are like packs of 6, and they're $30.
That's not bad.
So $5 for a dropper bottle. Not terrible. And actually really nice to use. They're probably more comparable to Vallejo model color for anyone who has used that. And I really like the finish. I really like the feel. I really like the way that they thin down and mix and glaze and all that kind of stuff. So pretty comparable. So yeah, look, they are a contender. Definitely worth a look if you're in the market for paint. And then the other thing that happened at Throw the Dice, and this was not my fault, and no money or sexual favors would change hands, but I was having a chat to a couple of the Infinity guys, Val in particular, about just cool models and from back in the day, and we were talking about the confrontation, the Rackham confrontation game, and just basically how cool those models were. And I was saying that I've got this old what I made for a Warhammer 7th edition Ogre army I made out of confrontation models, and Val was like, oh yeah, I've got a whole butt ton I'm never actually going to use. Do you just want one to paint? Because I can totally just give you one to paint. And I'm like, well, if you give me one, I'll paint it one day eventually. So he's like, yeah, no, I'll bring one. And so he literally just, as I was in there, he just came over and just handed it to me, and it's this little groovy little orc. He's called a warrior of stone. Man, the confrontation models, I know they're out of production, and I'm waxing lyrical about nostalgia, but having a range of models that were so just unique in their aesthetic, they looked different to everything else out there. They were so very different, and they were so characterful. I massively love the old confrontation or the old Rackham models from that whole era. There was some super wacky stuff.
I'm just having a look at them. They're definitely different.
Yeah. You just, and especially when, I mean, this is the time that GW really did rule the roost. To all things fantasy, they were just a whole different kettle of fish. You won't see anything like them, so I really enjoy them. They're a painter's dream. All old metal, so they're nice and chunky and heavy, but the detail is good. It's nice and crisp and sharp, and it's just, as I said, you don't feel like you have to paint an orc the way you think of a traditional fantasy orc, because it looks nothing like it. Um, so that was super cool and super appreciated, Val. And then the last thing that happened, and this is maybe where mistakes were made. I don't know. I'll let you. But I was having a chat to a friend of mine, about my 3D printer and what I was doing and what I wanted to do and all this kind of jazz. And he goes, "Oh yeah, because he had a little resin 3D printer that was actually pretty good." And he goes, "Yeah, I've got this, but I'm thinking I want to upgrade to a bigger one. Basically the same specs, the same quality, but a bigger one. But I can't really afford it. I'd need to sell my current printer to afford the upgrade." And I said, "What do you mean you need to sell? You like what do you need to sell it for?" And he told me, and now I own a resin printer. Is the moral of the story here. So I literally went and picked that up the other day. But I'm still sort of nutting out exactly how to set that up and make it go and get all the shit I need and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I may have bought another 3D printer. Oops. The good news is, though, you know how you were trying to stay model neutral?
Yes. Oh, shit. No. Because, I mean, ideally, the birthday's coming up shortly, so that might screw me a little bit. But if I get these corn guys done, then I'll be in the positives.
Yeah? Are you sure?
If I never look in the mailbox, maybe.
So yeah, I've still got to actually work out how to make it go. It is sat in my garage for a little bit, while I sort of work out what else I need in the way of supplies and get the right kind of gloves and shit, just to make sure I don't drink resin or some shit. Apparently you're not supposed to do that, it turns out. But, so there's a little bit of dicking around getting things and whatnot, but we're nearly there, and we'll fire up soon, and we'll see if it makes models go. Because I like that idea. So that's my purchasing. That's literally the purchase list, and it's now I've gone through it. I kind of feel bad, because the other thing, I am eyeing off Marvel Zombies so hard.
Well,
I yes,
you need a copy if there's a copy down the road.
I mean,
yeah,
yes.
Well, then jump on board. One of us.
It's so dangerous. I mean, we're going to have 2 copies of Masters. Would it be wrong to have 2 copies of Marvels? I don't know. I just work here. It is taunting me daily with the little updates that it's putting out. Actual hobby wise, I've done a little bit. I haven't done a massive amount, but I've done a little bit. So we talked a fraction ago, or an episode or so ago, about me making the foolish decision to take on commissions that I shouldn't take on. But the good news is I'm actually making a little bit of progress. So I've done the first couple of models here, and that's what the desert sand was for, to give that a crack.
Yep.
On the basis for those. So look, I've nutted out a process. It goes together pretty quickly. I don't think it'll be. So I finished 2 models. A couple of them were already started.
Okay.
So I did 2 from scratch. And then two that have started, I've basically been trying to work out how best to move it from the way it was being painted to the way that I've decided to paint things.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when you get creative freedom. Very, very similar paint scheme, but I am just going on easy mode. So where things like different armor plates were next to each other were painted different colors, I'm like, no, not today, Satan. All of those are becoming one color. So there's been a little bit of that. But that means I'm sitting at 2 done, 2 that are actually a fair amount of the way there. There's probably another night's work for the both of them, between paint drying and stuff. And then, yeah, we're kicking goals with that. So it's actually getting a little bit of progress.
How many exactly were there in that squad?
That's a good question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 9 left here in the box,
Mm-hmm.
and there is 4 on my desk. So 13.
Okay.
Yeah. So not the end of the world. And as I said, now I'm sitting at a stage where I feel like I'm a bit of across a process. We've got a bit of a workflow. I'm not massively stressed about it. He's not in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry. I'm going to stop to paint a wolfman for a little bit. But it also means that between things drying and the kind of steps that you have to let sit for a bit, I've got something that's already primed, that's already ready to go, that you can kind of just bounce between and kind of tick along at.
Yep. Keep the
And
mojo going in a different direction.
It is so much nicer to do anything like this when it shows up assembled and it shows up primed, and I can just literally not think, just start laying paint down. So that's kind of cool. So a little bit of work on them, a little bit of work on Wolfman, and the only other real part to that is that I have spent a little bit of time recording some of the process, that may or may not ever make it into the ether, but with the idea that, theoretically we could start releasing a little bit of additional content, potentially to either Patreons or however we work, to just add a little bit more there. So I'm slowly working out. I did buy another webcam. Oops. But hopefully that will get quality to a slightly higher standard that I'm happy with. And if I can work out how to make it happen, we might start sort of, especially if it's something I can do while I'm painting. I don't have to actually do much more.
Yeah.
Because
just sort of flip a button, talk to yourself.
Yeah, talk while I do it. Just talk about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. Give a couple of bits and then spit it out. I think that could be a thing that could definitely happen. So, a little bit of time just tweaking that and trying to work out how best to do it and organize camera angles and editing and stuff. So, the stuff so far is pretty rough. We'll see if it ever sees the light of day. But we'll just keep ticking along with that too.
Excellent. Well, that's a fair effort, especially when you compare it to what's coming out from this side of the microphone.
It is usually in the reverse, so I feel like it's just, the pendulum swings.
Maybe. You're very kind to say so anyway. Going back a little while, we have also played a game.
We did.
Yeah, I think we played this before we recorded the episode with Rich too, did we?
We did, but then we got distracted with an episode with Rich, so we never talked about it.
Yes.
But now we're here.
So let's talk. Now, this is a game that we have talked about in the past. We had a couple of games, yourself, myself, and Jared, which we failed miserably at. But we thought we'd give it another go. So we cracked out Marvel United. 4-player games this time. So yourself, myself, Alice, and my brother Craig. We thought, well, we're currently sitting at a 0% success rate for a co-op game against AI. Let's see how we go here. I got it out one night and it did not disappoint. Again, it was just such an easy game to set up and to get going.
You just get going. I mean, it's super cruisy, and I feel like a lot of the setup time was actually us fighting over or trying to decide or trying to force someone to make a decision about what characters and who was doing what and all that jazz like that. Which bad guy we're going to fight, and then there's silence for 5 minutes while we all look at each other awkwardly. Go, you decide. No, you decide.
This one looks good, but this one looks good, but this one looks good. There's too many models.
Yeah, this is it's
God
the
help
joy
us when the X-Men one comes in.
Yeah,
it's going to be even more, but that's fine. But yes, so easy. And yeah, Alice played with Jared from memory as well. But for my brother, he picked it up straight away.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not a difficult game.
But also, I really like the way that it actually forces you to play cooperatively. Like it's a really smooth mechanic that just, that whole concept of when I play my card in my turn, I also get actions that you played in your turn before me, means that there's always this element of working out cooperatively what the best moves are and how to play it and what you can do to help not just your move, but the next person's.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we had 3 games of that. And by the end of it, all 3 games were won by us, which totally took us by surprise because, like I said, we were sitting on a 0% success rate for the
I'm
other
still
games.
surprised. Yeah.
First up, I'll just run through it quickly because there's not too much to tell. If you want to have a bit more about Marvel United, there's an episode way back in the past somewhere. But first up, we played against Rhino. The second up against Kingpin, and then third was MODOK.
So again,
maybe in that order.
I'm pretty sure it was in that order-ish. But I mean, the cool bit and the replayability there is the fact that all of the bad guys have different win mechanics. They've got slightly different ways that they interact with you, with the game. So it actually does feel like that you're playing against a different bad guy.
Yes, definitely. Like I remember playing against Carnage last time we played, and there was just like heaps of his little symbiote guys hurting us all over the place. Whereas with these guys, we didn't seem to have too many henchmen. I think Kingpin had like Bullseye and
someone else.
But yeah, look, we played 3 games. We had fun. From memory, I think I played Venom in game 1. Definitely some sort of Spider-Man guy against Rhino, Luke Cage in game 2, and then I was tossing up between Punisher and Hawkeye for game 3. But having finished the Hawkeye TV series, I went with Hawkeye.
Yeah, and then I played. First game was Ms. Marvel against Rhino, and then Kingpin, sticking with the theme because I felt like it was absolutely necessary. I threw in Iron Fist.
Yep.
And then Yondu was the third one I played.
But I do think the character of choice for the evening went to my brother, who pulled out Howard the Duck for one game.
Absolutely. And then some of the abilities that duck had.
Yes.
Damn.
Too good. Too much fun.
Good. Oh, the neural disruptor or disintegrator or whatever it was that he's got. Super cool. But I mean, and this is the joy of the Kickstarter, right? Where you've got infinity options because it just came with boxes of, Kickstarter exclusives. So I feel like there's replays for days.
Yes. And especially, like I said, when that X-Men one comes in at some point, there was going to be more and more and more, which is just going to make it more fun. So it's probably a game that's going to be hitting the table a bit more.
Yeah. And again, it's a really, as we got 3 games in the night easily.
Yeah, it was easy.
Yeah, that was a nice cruisy evening of some games after the kids had gone to bed. It didn't destroy my brain, so I could have kept going if I was younger and more susceptible to staying awake. But yeah, again, it's just, and again, I feel like it's the one that you can bust out an evening with the family or with a couple of friends that aren't necessarily hardcore gamers, and they get to pick their favorite characters from whatever movie that they've decided they liked. You can explain it, you can play through it really easy. People will catch on, and it actually keeps everyone engaged.
Yep.
So yeah, I can see getting a fair old workout.
Definitely. That's it for me for gaming.
I managed to sneak one other one in. And this again, before Throw the Dice, was closed for deep clean. And the same night that Alice and Lockie were playing their Blood Bowls League game. So that was happening on the next table, which was pretty cool to see throw down. But Dylan and I went back in just for another casual game of Blood Bowl Sevens. He's trying to nut out his Dark Elf team for what will be next season, and probably Thoughtless Bowl.
Yep.
Quick segue there. And I played the Kislev or the Slan against him last time. He wanted to do that, and I'm trying to find ways to mix it up for him, and also keep it interesting for me because I have the attention span of a squirrel on caffeine. So I threw down Corn, knowing that there'd been a rules update since the last time I played them. So I chucked in my sevens roster, which I totally remember what it looked like. It was the big guy, so the Bloodspawn.
Yep.
2 Bloodseekers, which are now strength 4. A little Corn, Gore. That's it. And then you fill with linemen to 7 and off you go. So I think it was 3 of them and happy days. And that's pretty much 600 on the nose.
Sounds about right.
Dill running Dark Elves again, but mixing it up from what I would have expected to see from Dark Elves. So without giving too many hints away, fuck it, I'll tell you what his team was. He doesn't care. No, he was, because I was talking to him, and if you ask me, you're playing Dark Elves because A, they're elves, and B, witch elves. And he has disregarded all of that and run, it was 3 blitzers.
Yeah.
And an assassin.
Okay.
And then lineman.
So the assassin is the tricky one for me because I've never played Dark Elves per se. But how useful is the assassin?
Look, he's actually not a terrible piece. For a couple of reasons.
Stab and shadowing.
Yes. So on an Edge 4 piece, or effectively a 2+ dodging piece, you've got someone who can tag ball carriers really nicely because shadowing, gives you that extra. It makes it harder. Yeah. So, you start just forcing more dice roll, or it's a threat of more dice rolls. And whilst, it's a hollow dice roll and add your movement, subtract their movement and all that kind of shit, right? It's the threat that if you dodge away from him, you may have to dodge again, and you may have to dodge again. And there's always this, when Blood Bowl is a game about minimizing your dice rolls, here's a one that gives you the chance of forcing more opponent dice rolls when you start tagging the ball carrier.
Especially in a game of sevens when there's no rerolls generally.
Yeah. You just need one to go badly, and suddenly that assassin has paid off. So I think as a defensive piece, he's actually not terrible. Okay. And then the other thing with him is Stab is actually a super interesting one for, look, the tempting thing is to take the biggest, nastiest thing on the pitch and try and shank him, right? But when you're talking an armor 10 piece or an armor 9 piece, odds are not that great.
So Stab pretty much just ignores the block and does an armor roll, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So your option here is to try and dodge into a cage and shank a ball carrier with no threat of uphill blocks.
Okay. All right. There's a
so
plan.
Have all of the supports you want. I don't care. Have all the assists. I'm just going to hope for the armor roll. Rather than trying to negate assists and all that kind of stuff. And especially in an elf team where chances are you're going to end up outnumbered at some point in time. And because he's still a 2+ dodge, even dodging into a couple of tackle zones, you can kind of do that with a level of confidence. So I think look, he's not the piece I would have thought to bring along, but starting to unpack what he brings and how you could use it, I think there's a couple of fun little tricks you could play, and then the blitzers are just flat out solid.
Yeah.
Um,
So probably assassin more useful in say sevens, maybe even more so than 11s, but definitely more than Dungeon Bowl, I would say.
yes, yes,
Shadowing probably doesn't have as wide a use in Dungeon
no.
Bowl.
I'm more and more seeing Dungeon Bowl as a real brawl game.
Yep.
With the occasional dodge out and sprint, which I'm down for. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But look, the thing that it's probably harder to get on him in sevens, because you generally have less control over your advancement, and there's more chance of him being drafted. But if you could get leap on that little bastard, so you can leap into a cage, avoid all your dodges, and then shank.
Yeah.
There's an actual practical use for leap rather than the internet meme version. I think there's some, or if you could get a sidestep on him or something like that, so you can just keep pissing off ball carriers. So look, as I said, the blitzers are solid. The assassin, I think, has some use. And I was running Khorne, and this is the first time I'd run the new Khorne. So I have played an 11 season with the original sort of Khorne Demons team, and I hadn't really thought about the changes, to be honest. I went, right, well, I can take a big guy, so that's a mandatory option. We'll just throw him in as a starting point. And then how can I make a team around that? The Bloodseekers are still rock solid. I rated them in the old team. They're still good. They're better by far, actually, in the new one.
4 strength with frenzy.
Yeah. Strength 4, armor 10.
Throwing 4 dice at a block to try and get someone down. That's pretty good.
So my previous 11 season with them, because they were armor 10, I basically gave them guard wherever possible and just threw them into scrums, and they were my support pieces because they were the hardest ones to take down. Now they're strength 4, they're genuine threats by themselves. So it was a bit of an adjustment there, but they are batshit crazy. The linemen are pretty much the same. That's no real change. The corner gore, no real difference there. The Bloodspawn, look, it takes a little bit of a hit. I mean, I fundamentally think that the Bloodthirster that they had in the old Core Demon team was batshit crazy good, and I fully endorse.
It should be for a Bloodthirster.
Yeah. So I think the rebrand makes sense to the Bloodspawn. I think pulling him back a peg actually makes a lot of sense, especially when they've just given the Bloodseekers the Strength 4 boost. So I think he lost, and I'm thinking about this out loud. So he's move 5. Yeah, so the Bloodthirst was movement 6, Strength 5 with horns.
Yep.
So he goes down to movement 5, Strength 5, but he loses the horns, keeps Claw, but gains Mighty Blow. So you basically replace your horns for Mighty Blow. So not the worst thing in the world, but having the option of a Strength 6 Blitz was batshit crazy good.
And the fact that Claw Mighty Blow is not what it used to be too, means that on a starting piece is not what it would have been a couple of rules ago.
Apart from that, he loses Juggernaut and he loses Regeneration as well.
Okay. Cost-wise, are they around about the same?
Bloodthirster, what was he, 180? So he also went down to 160. So he's cheaper there.
Bit more realistic, especially with sevens.
Yeah. And I mean, keeps Frenzy, keeps Loner. We swap out Wild Animal for Unchanneled Fury, which I think is pretty much the same. So it's probably a reasonable change. The Khorne team with the flat out, across the board Frenzy, with no starting block
Mhm.
I mean, flat out. Every time you roll a lot of blocks, and every time your cheeks pucker a little bit. And that doesn't change. I suppose sevens makes that a little bit even because you roll just as many blocks, but you ain't got no rerolls. They were very much, for me, a 3 reroll team in 11s. So taking the rerolls away from that team when you are throwing so many dice with no block, it's still shit tons of fun, but it is there's a lot of risk.
I really like, especially painting these guys up at the moment. I really want to give them a go.
They look super fun. They feel like a corn team because they are just so goddamn angry, whether it goes well or not for them. So
They don't care.
No, they love it. So it's super fun. As I said, plays a little bit differently, and I found even just the shift from move 6 to move 5 for the big guy, an actual, like, it was a big, you start having to think about where you can put your cages and how far you can get and all that kind of jazz as well. But ultimately the Bloodseekers are the heroes there. As far as the game goes, actually I was super surprised how well, and Dylan has historically played a lot of goblins,
Yep.
a lot of teams, and honestly not taking the game massively seriously, and he's kind of just shifted gear a little bit with getting the Dark Elves. He's realised that they can actually do pretty well, and maybe he should think about it. So he was really considering how he could pull guys out of position, how he could, play, what he could do. He was talking about, trying to fake out and shift the ball across the pitch and all that kind of jazz. And my plan A was to remove as many elves from the pitch as physically possible and then worry about scoring, which I feel like was the correct plan still.
Definitely.
But the moral of the story there is I did not remove as many elves as I needed to early on. I think by the end of the game, he had 3 players on the pitch. But by then, he'd scored twice to my 1 touchdown. And I couldn't make it back. So, who would have thought keeping your head in the game and playing the ball does what it's supposed to do? And he did really, really well. I mean, elves are still elves. They pull out bullshit stuff. Dodging on a 2 is a wonderful thing. And when the dice want to play your way, they play your way. I mean, we still had moments of failed go for it into the end zones and all that kind of jazz, and it was super cool.
That's what makes a Blood Bowl game in the first place. It's like, and it's really good to see, like, especially with Dylan, because Dylan has always historically been, the guy that you have the most fun playing. But has never won an awful lot and has never let that hold him back.
No, and has never taken it massively seriously. No. And to be honest, he's still not taking it super seriously. He's just actually playing the game a little bit more than just doing the shits and gigs moves.
He would very often do a move for the sake of it being the shits and gigs move,
knowing full well that there was a better option that he probably should take. And he's just shifted that a little bit. It's still a super fun, super cash game where everyone's having an absolute blast. But as I said, he's just put the foot on the pedal a little bit harder. Look, I reckon he's going to be a legit threat next season running the Darkies. It's going to be interesting.
I'm excited.
So anyway, he, as I said, outscored the Corn 2-1. Super fun game. Super fun throwing the Corn back on the pitch and throwing more blocks than I knew I could. The bloody Bloodspawn hit like he had a handbag. But he was just, swinging wildly and not doing anything. But the rest of the team kind of picked up the slack a bit, which was good.
Excellent. Well, that's pretty much it for games. So shall we take a break and come back and talk other stuff?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do it.
And put your jet in gear. Anything to get you out of here. Gotta go hit that ride to the setting sun. I gotta leave this mess behind. Gotta cruise
I don't even. You can say it.
I saw it this time. I looked.
This is crazy. I'm not needed at all here. I'll be off.
Okay, good. It'll
All
be
right,
a much
yes,
better
all right,
podcast.
great. Yep, but great.
Oh,
Enjoy.
okay. I'd better be Jace, I suppose. So, no.
And this is why I'm here. You're welcome. All right. So we have flipped things around a little bit.
We
with
have
this episode. Because normally in that real early kind of piece about all the shit that we've done that nobody actually cares about, we also talk about the sort of things that we may have consumed from the televisions.
Yes. Assuming that people that listen to this and play games are also into a bit of the same sort of pop culture that we're into.
This is it. I'm into the same pop culture that I'm into. So
I'm a guy like me.
Yeah. See how this works? And in this world of, questionable hobby mojo, and just generally being tired, I feel like it's one of the things that we've done. So there has been a little bit of watching, and what I will touch on as a starting point are the few things that I started and have not since gone back to, and then we'll get into the juicies.
Okay.
So in my scrollings through all of the different streaming services I have available,
which are?
Yes.
What do you have?
Current state is Netflix, Disney Plus,
yep,
Apple,
yep,
Binge,
okay, Amazon,
yep, that's the other one.
That's a fair chunk.
Yeah,
I've got Netflix, Disney, Amazon, although I never look at Amazon, and have access to Stan, but I never look at that either.
Yeah. And to be fair, the Apple TV one isn't actually my account. And the Binge, I think, is still our free 30-day trial that my wife promises that she will cancel before the end.
Same with my Amazon account.
But Amazon Prime gets you free shipping. So,
I know. So I got myself a birthday present delivered for free that I can, when it rocks up, I can give to my wife to wrap and give to me.
See, the system works.
Yeah.
So too many of the streaming services, and the TV that we now have will let you just scroll through everything rather than having to choose streaming service and then.
That's pretty good.
So it literally gives you everything, and it will do the related things regardless of the streaming service.
That's pretty good.
So I was flicking through, and as my assorted streaming history led, it went through a whole bunch of sort of superhero spin-offs and whatnot. And I hit Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, see, Cloak and Dagger is one that I've had on my list to watch for a while and have never actually pulled the plug and watched it.
I must have been bored one night because I pulled the plug, and I went, look, here's a couple of B-listers I really don't know enough about. Let's find a little bit more about them. And look, honestly, not terrible.
Okay.
Long episodes. So I think I watched a couple, and they were probably hour-long episodes. And at some points, they begin to feel a little bit long.
Okay.
There's a lot of scene setting and things like that. It probably will speed up. I hope it will speed up. But it's also one of those ones I got about 2 episodes into and went, and I haven't got around to going back to since.
Are you going to let it speed up? That's the question.
Yeah, I'm a very impatient individual. So this will come down to legitimately how bored I am one night and whether there's anything that pops up on the feed as a recommended thing before it. So look, not a terrible series, good concept, decent work on the background stories, if maybe a little bit too far, but it was one of those in the first couple of episodes, where it just didn't quite grab me enough to scream I needed to go back to it.
Fair enough.
And speaking of ones that should have absolutely grabbed me, and I got about 2 episodes into and just haven't gone back. So I started Cowboy Bebop, and this is the live action.
Now, I know 2 things about Cowboy Bebop. I know that it's based on something, I'm assuming anime.
Yep.
And I also know that it's been cancelled after 1 season.
Yeah. And look, I got cowboys and I got space and I got kind of,
Did you get
vigilante
Bebop?
justice, and I didn't get Rocksteady.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah. And I went, oh, cancelled after one season. This is basically Firefly. Great. Let's sign me the hell up. And look,
That's one way of
again,
thinking about it.
it's not bad. Which I have a whole bunch of questions about whether I can support Joss Whedon anymore.
Yeah.
But that's a different story for another day. Again, not bad. Good concepts, good casting. Everything kind of fits in, and it kind of did everything that said it would do on the tin. And I got 2 episodes in, and I'm kind of went, oh yeah. If I get around to it, I get around to it. Let's see how bored I am one night and see how far we go. So I must be a really hard audience at the moment. I don't know whether I just don't. That being said, the other one that had a very similar treatment, and we'll start seeing a theme here. So I also got, and here's another one. I started looking at the cast list. I knew the concept. I knew it existed. I started looking back at the cast list. I started realizing that there were at least 3 seasons of this shit, and thought, wow, somebody clearly thinks it's all right. And I kicked off episode 1 of season 1, Doom Patrol.
Mm-hmm.
It's some weird shit.
It is a strange one, isn't it? You keep talking. I'm going to see how many episodes I got in before I stopped.
Yeah. So, I mean, I am currently a whole episode in, because again, they're long. They bounce around like it's a full hour long episode. And I like, theoretically, I like the idea of B-lister kind of superheroes. I kind of dig the underdog story. I kind of dig the flawed characters, but this feels like a lot of, things for the sake of being, trying to be either shocking or different, or just, there's a lot of stuff crammed into it. So I got a whole episode in. That was an hour of my life, and I didn't dislike it, but I literally finished that episode and went, well, that was weird as shit. I don't know if I need more of that.
I think my list isn't coming up, but I think I may have even finished the first season, but never went back. And I think Doom Patrol, some of the guys from Doom Patrol turned up in another series. Was that Titans?
Yeah, so that's where they pick up Beast Boy in Titans.
Okay, yeah.
Out of the Doom Patrol house. And that's kind of where I'd known it from, and I kind of, that's where I sort of picked it up from. But yeah, I just kind of finished one episode, and they kind of introduced everyone, and you got enough of the backstory that you kind of knew who was who and what was going on-ish. It just...
Because it's an interesting cast too, from memory.
Well, you've got Brendan Fraser.
Yep.
You've got Alan Tudyk.
Yep.
Yeah, what's his name is the old dude? That's useful information for everybody listening right there. What's his name?
Old guy.
The old guy. I bet he's a guy that people know.
Pierce Brosnan, was it? No.
No, but it kind of looks like him.
Timothy Dalton, the other white meat.
Yeah, so I mean, the cast looked good. 3 seasons. Clearly someone rates it, but I don't know.
Mark Shepard's in it for 8 episodes.
Was it the first 8 episodes?
Oh, I don't know. No. I don't remember him, so maybe he's later on.
I don't remember him either. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably not going to go back to that one, just a heads up.
No, that's fine.
So they were my kind of board scanning for something, a little hidden gem of stuff, and I feel like I'm still yet to stumble across the hidden gem.
Still waiting. Yeah.
So that was that, and then we get on to the stuff that is super fun to talk about. So, and starting probably at the bottom of the list. So I finished Witcher. Season 2 now.
Season 2, yep. How was it? I have not started.
Look, I didn't expect it to finish when it did. I was kind of waiting for the next episode, so it does kind of leave you there. I'm so glad they pissed off a lot of the bouncing around in time stuff They
Yeah, no,
kind
I
of
heard that was a lot less.
so
There's still
much
some,
less.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's clear, like it's obvious that they're doing flashbacks or flash forward or whatever the fuck
Okay.
they're flashing around. Probably the piece that is confusing, or the piece I noticed was it starts to get a little Game of Thronesy in that everything's all these different stories that we're starting to see are coming together, and you're trying, and they start talking about characters. I'm like, wait, who is that? And where do they come from?
Yep.
And where is this? Which country are you from? Are you from the good guys or the north or the bad guys or Sintra or this? So it starts getting a little bit complex in the plot that's going on, and it starts being about the global politics, and it starts being about a lot of that stuff. And that's probably the hardest bit to follow. Like, I feel I did the recap before I started watching, and it was not enough. I need a bigger recap.
Okay. Need a recap for the recap.
Yeah, I need a deep dive for a recap. But it's almost one of those where you want the reference sheet next to it to go, wait, where are you from and what's going on? Cool ideas, really. I mean, maybe some very obvious, tackling of the topic of racism. Like, let's just back that off a little bit, guys. Maybe it was necessary. I don't know. It got a little bit heavy. Ultimately, it does what it says on the tin. Henry Cavill's still good. There's still a lot of monster slaying and angry witches. There are more angry witches this time round. There is still, I mean, you don't have the same kind of get stuck in your head for weeks on end as you do from Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, but there is still some banging tunes from the Bard. Sorry, by all accounts, good. Just a little bit. It's starting to get a little bit deep into the world, and that's probably the piece where you don't have the time issue that you had last season. You've now got this complexity issue.
Okay.
Well worth powering through though.
It's on the list.
The next one, and again, coming out on Disney Plus. I love this whole coming back to streaming relatively quickly after the cinematic release. So I spent a whole evening, because it required a whole evening, watching Eternals.
Thoughts?
And I didn't know what to expect. So not a sort of a story or a bunch of characters that I knew anything about moving before I started. Reviews were super, dark on the movie, to be fair. Like, he got slammed.
Because it's the first Marvel movie which is not like kind of a popcorn film.
Yes. I actually think it's been given a pretty bad rap. By the end of it, I feel it didn't feel like a Marvel movie. I feel like the MCU and even the TV series are starting to really hit their stride on the tempo. It's kind of that mix of action and banter and kind of the little quips and stuff in amongst stuff, but it keeps this kind of pace. This didn't have that at all. And I feel like that's kind of where people probably felt it was slow. Because it got slammed for being a really, and it was long.
It was a decent effort.
2.5
It's
hours.
about that.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit less.
But I really thought that it felt deliberate, though. It felt considered. I think, there were times there where they paused, they slowed down stuff. But it seemed like it was intentional. It was actually for a reason. It wasn't just because the movie was dragging, because we had to cram more shit in.
Yeah, I thought the same, actually.
I felt it was actually really well paced, but it just wasn't the same pace that you would get from a Marvel movie.
It had a different feel to it, and yet it was still the same sort of superheroes that you've seen before. So it was like, it wasn't a Marvel film. Definitely wasn't a DC film.
No.
It was just, it was its own entity.
No. And look, I am a big one for, the old school kung fu films, step one, but they kind of that move into Asian cinema when things like Jet Li's Hero became good and House of Flying Dragons became
Mhm.
big and that kind of stuff. And I actually feel like this had more of that kind of feel in some instances,
Okay.
where it was about kind of these big, grand kind of, rather than lots of explosions and excitement and stuff happening. It was about the space. I really liked the just the real casual diversity between characters. The fact that there was, a hero there with a disability, that it wasn't a thing. We didn't focus on it. There was homosexuality. There was this real androgynous kind of junior character, and just none of it was an issue. Like it was just part of their story. It wasn't something that we were really making a song and dance about.
No.
I thought that was super cool. They still didn't pull any punches when it came to just going the George R. R. Martin on people either. I think the character arcs were believable. It made sense. Like it wasn't necessarily a surprise, but
because what was it? There were 9 to start off with,
yeah, no,
and
no, 10.
they were all different characters. They were all Eternals, but they all felt different. They had different powers. They had different personality traits.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, as I said, it didn't feel like a Marvel movie. 2.5 hours is a long time to pay attention to anything, but it felt about right. Like I don't know how much you would cut down without losing the real deliberate pace of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd be in a hurry to go back and watch it, but there were a couple of things that they did extremely well. Like you said, the diversity. I felt like that film had a better Flash than the Flash that we've seen in DC. Like I forget her name, but the character that could move really quickly. The scenes where she did that were insanely well done.
And it actually showed the strength of the power. Like it showed where that could outdo the stronger people, the other stuff. I feel like it actually did give each of and I actually really liked that there were some there in in that Eternals group with superpowers that were not combat focused. They weren't there to belt someone. There was actually someone there who was fundamentally about building stuff.
Yep.
And yes, you can absolutely use that in a confrontation, but that's not its primary purpose.
Yes.
I feel like some of those kind of the mind controlling guy, the whole illusion-y, trickstery kind of role. And again, lots of just more diversity than I think we've seen in a lot of movies. Not just the obvious diversity piece, but just the fact that we're seeing heroes that are not your standard hero archetypes. I actually really, the special effects were good.
Yep.
The animation in it was good. I'm probably not going to go back and watch it a second time in a hurry, but I tend, if I'm going to watch something a second time, it's because I want bubblegum, and I feel like for a superhero movie, this was actually a lot less bubblegummy.
No, definitely. The only thing that I had that kind of took me out of it a little bit was the love triangle. It kind of did my head in a bit because you've got the guy that played Jon Snow.
Yep.
And the guy that played Robb Stark.
Yep.
Both in a love triangle with a character named Cersei.
Yeah, look, that kind of hurt. And then, if it wasn't even a triangle, right? There's almost there's an extra hypotenuse in there.
That's true.
Which is a little bit fun. I did really like, particularly from that character, the way that they showed them influencing history and popular culture.
Yep.
That whole concept of, the story of Peter Pan and that you invented, right? I see what's going on here.
Yeah.
And a lot of those little pieces that they slot in, the moment with what's his face, the inventor, and he's probably my biggest gripe. I can't remember any of the characters' bloody names.
Yeah.
Which there's a big cast.
Pharos.
Farah, there was Athena, because it
There
wasn't
was
quite
Athena.
Athena.
Yeah. There was Athena, there was Druid, Icarus, Circe. What was the young girl's name? Pixie? No. Something along those lines.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
But this is I have to think about it. And I knew during the movie, and they talked about them, and I knew who they were talking about, and that was fine. But it was just probably, there's probably some concerning thing if I can't remember it. There's something not quite there. Yeah, I honestly, it's not the movie I expected from MCU.
Sprite.
As a Sprite, thank you.
Had to look it up though.
Yeah,
it's close.
Yeah. Yeah, dig it. It was as a not different. I'm not screaming to row back and watch it again, but I really don't think it deserved what it got.
No, I don't think it did either.
So that was Eternals, and then the last one, and I've definitely saved my favorite to last. I have started, and I was up to date up until tonight, but I've started on Peacemaker.
Now, I have watched the first episode, and I mean, the word that came to mind when I thought of it after watching it was stupid. Like, it's just such a stupid show.
Absolutely.
But it's stupid in a good way.
And I love it. Yeah, it's good stupid. It's not, and I really struggle with a lot of the really kind of crass, crude, humory, stupid stuff. I just can't quite get into it. Like there are a lot of very popular American comedians that I just find annoying.
Mm-hmm.
This is stupid, but it's entertainingly stupid. If nothing else, the entire thing is worth it for the intro credits.
Yes. The intro credits are something else.
It is next level amazing. But I was surprised. I honestly wasn't expecting a lot. Going, John Cena, Peacemaker, how's this going to go down? Really well. Really got down. The casting is on point. The characters make sense. They're just. It's this really fun kind of dysfunctional, super highly qualified kind of group.
Yep. I dig it. I am definitely going to continue watching on because I think it's just been the lack of energy that I've been feeling recently that has not had me staying up too late after work recently. But I watched that first episode and like the way that ended too, with him just sitting there in the car park. I was just, I need to see more of this.
Yeah. And look, it scales up.
Okay. You're right. Good.
It's so good. And it, trying not to give anything away, but it keeps that same feel. It keeps the same kind of pace. It keeps that same, lightheartedness. But I actually think, and I'm 3 episodes in now, it's actually starting to give me some empathy for the character of Peacemaker that John Cena is playing. Okay. So it's actually doing this nice little thing underneath the stupid, where you go, he's not a bad dude. He's an idiot, sure, but
he kills people.
I can see
bring peace.
Yeah, like stupid, but not fundamentally a bad dude. And I'm really confused about why I'm starting to not dislike this character. It's that kind of piece. It's also good that the entire cast of Orange is the New Black got another job. That's a winner there. But no, rate it. Absolutely, it's so much fun. And that's the one the wife is on board too. She's like, no, we're watching this one together. Okay. So Jeez, it's good. The soundtrack's a banger too.
And that
Soundtrack.
eagle.
Oh, and it keeps going. It just keeps being there. It's not useful. just it's just around.
Okay.
It's the best. I love
Oh
it.
dear.
So yeah, that is my number one pick at the moment. Peacemaker, get on board.
Excellent. Well, I continued on with Entourage, and I have finished watching all 8 seasons now and the movie. And I remember kind of why I didn't have season 8 anywhere on DVD.
That bad.
It's not its finest moment. So, but it's funny. Entourage is that one. It's one of those shows that I find really easy to watch. The characters are all likable. Even the asshole manager guy is fundamentally likable. And even when they're having their bad episodes, they know how to hit you in the feels. So, you're still getting emotionally attached to these people, which is, I really enjoyed it. And this was the second time I've seen the movie. I saw it when it came out on Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure it was a straight to Blu-ray thing. And I remember watching it going, that was okay. But I think I enjoyed it a lot more this time. So I did finish that, which was cool. That was my go-to watch while painting thing because I'd seen it and could have it on in the background very easily. The next TV series that I kind of watched was The Silent Sea, which is on Netflix. Again, I'm chasing that sort of Squid Game high. It's got one of the guys from Squid Game in it, like a minor character from Squid Game is in it as one of the main characters. The premise is that Earth has basically dried up. There's no water. Water is the commodity, and everybody gets like an allocated amount depending on their usefulness to society, sort of thing. And there's been this sort of accident 5 years ago that nobody talks about on a station on the moon. And so they send up this team to basically gather all the information that they can. That's the premise. In actual fact, this team of astronauts goes up and they discover that this place on the moon had discovered something called lunar water, which basically was water that keeps replicating itself.
Seems useful.
Yeah, when it comes into contact with a living being. So, a couple of drops on a fish, for example, the fish would keep replicating the water and create more water. On a human, not so much a good idea because the water came from inside and the person would end up drowning in a matter of minutes.
But fish, useful.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. So, they got the whole idea that lunar water would save all the problems on Earth. However, there is obviously the danger to human life as well. And, it was a typical sci-fi sort of series and kind of ended at a weird point and was just a bit bizarre. It had lots of aspects of, your typical sci-fi tropes, like there was scenes from Aliens in there, for example. There weren't any aliens, but those typical scenes were there, and it was, I don't know, like I kind of enjoyed watching it and didn't at the same time. And again, not something I'd go back and watch if they bring out a season 2. Not necessarily something I'd be in a hurry to see, but it filled in some time.
There's a review for you.
Yeah,
it filled in some
it
time.
filled in some time, and at this time of the year, this time of the pandemic, like, is that all you need? Probably not. But
Some
anyway.
days.
I will move on from that, and I'll go into a couple of movies. So, Venom 2: Let There Be Carnage. I watched it. Actually, the wife tuned in for most of it, and she watched it too. Have you seen the first one?
Not all the way through.
Yeah, look, the banter between Venom and Tom Hardy is really quite entertaining, but also not really in character with Venom so much. So it's kind of this weird film that sort of is but isn't the character that it's portraying. And Let There Be Carnage, Woody Harrelson is Carnage. And
He
so
plays a good bad guy.
he does play a good bad guy, but it's very typical. Like it
Crazy
was
ass
like,
Woody
yeah,
Harrelson.
it was like I was watching Natural Born Killers in some points.
Mhm.
He's done it before, and if look, the things that this one had going for it was, first of all, it's not Venom versus Venom the second. You know, the first
Mhm.
Venom film was Venom against the symbiote that looked kind of the same and was very
Yeah.
boring battle. This one was Venom against a red symbiote. So
Well, I mean, he's a different color, so by
he's a
default.
different color, so it was a bit easier to follow. Look, it's again, it passed the time.
All right, so we're not hurrying to that one
No,
either.
we're not hurrying to that one either. I mean, probably the most interesting point of the movie itself was the end credit scene, where the end credit scene for Venom runs into the end credit scene for No Way Home.
Yeah,
If
okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, it was. Oh, speaking of end credit scene, did you watch the one from Eternals?
Yep.
Yep.
Which spoilers, guys, spoilers. I'm not going to put it at the start because it's an end credit. You can Google it.
Yeah.
Star Fox. Which?
Oh yeah, that one. Did you see the other one as well?
Maybe. Hang on. What was the other one?
The Kit Harington one.
Yes.
The Blade.
That's more exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually really curious to see if they do something with that character.
Yeah, well, you heard the voice telling him not to.
Yes.
Do you know who the voice was?
No, I wasn't sure.
Blade.
I could.
So, considering that there is a Blade film in development, it is very possible that they do something.
She drops.
Yes. So him reaching for a sword, which is meant to be like the counterpart to like the black to the white of Excalibur sort of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that whole concept of the black sword. Look, I got that. I thought that was kind of interesting. I just wasn't sure if they'd actually go anywhere with it, and I couldn't pick the voice, and that's what threw me. I'm like,
yeah, I had to look that up because, and it has been confirmed by the director that it was the guy. It's the same guy that's playing Blade in the new film, and if
you mean they're recasting Blade?
I know it's not Wesley anymore. Wesley.
It's not Blade.
But
right,
it'll be interesting. Yeah, because the character superhero vigilante, I don't know the character well enough, but is called Black Knight, and his real name was Dale Whitman or whatever that character's name was. So something I didn't pick up on during the watching because I didn't know the characters. So
no, it was right at that last point in the movie where he said something along the lines of, "Oh, my family history is a bit more complicated." You're like, okay, there's something here. There's something here. Yeah. So yeah, that's infinitely because, to be honest, the Star Fox piece was a little bit goofy and it kind of didn't have the same.
And the fact that it's what's his name, Harry Styles.
Yeah. I mean, Star Fox is a bit of a douche anyway, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But it was, you had this really kind of not serious, but almost serious, deliberate, considered movie, and then this kind of almost Guardians of the Galaxy kind of moment right at the end that just felt out of kilter with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Anywho, here we are.
Yep. So that was Venom 2. The other movies that I watched was I went on a bit of a binge and I watched the Matrix movies. So I started all of them, all 4 of them. I started at number 1, and then I went
Happy
to number
Days?
2, and then I went to number 3,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and then I went to number 4.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
So,
what is it? Matrix Reloaded,
Loaded?
Matrix
Revolutions?
Revolutions, Matrix Resurrections.
Yes.
So, a little bit of an analogy if you want to have an image in your head. Let's just say there's a hill,
Mm-hmm.
and Matrix is at the top of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And then you slowly start rolling down the hill and you get to Reloaded.
Yep.
You're rolling a bit further down that hill.
We hit a couple of rocks. We
Yep.
go through some bushes we fall off a bit of a cliff.
Yeah,
Somebody
it's
kicks you
painful.
a couple of times. It's not good.
Yeah, so you're rolling further and further down that hill and you get to Revolutions.
Yeah.
And then after Revolutions, there's a big fucking cliff. And
Oh, fuck.
Resurrections is right down the fucking bottom.
Oh, fuck.
I did not enjoy it. Look, I was curious to see where they went, and I'd heard that they kind of tied it in to the whole idea behind the Matrix well. But I mean, there was one scene which really just sort of summed it up to me, and that's basically like the way they tie it in is Matrix is a thing again.
Okay.
Yeah, people are still stuck in the Matrix and they're still
Yep.
living these lives that they think they're living, but they're not. They're batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Anderson is a world famous computer game designer who made this trilogy of games called The Matrix.
Oh, God. Yep.
Which, you see cutscenes of the Matrix games, and they are cutscenes from the first 3 films.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks this is all just something he dreamed up. He's like not quite sure. Like he's seeing a therapist and all the rest of it, and he's still struggling with the whole identity or whatever. His boss, who is, I forget his name, but he is basically somebody Smith, comes to him one day and says, look, we need to make a sequel to your games. Our parent company, this is pretty much quote for quote, our parent company, Warner Brothers, is going to make this sequel with or without us. And I'm like, oh dear. So does it like, is that kind of code to say that they rushed this thing out with the people involved in the first ones so that it was theirs and not somebody else's? I don't know.
But is it an overly, trying to be clever reference to the fact this could be a real life thing, and we could all get it, and
exactly.
we're trying to get you to that? Because again, that first Matrix movie I walked out of and I was physically touching things to make sure they were there, like that. I feel like it's an attempt to try and get back to that, to get you that whole disbelief of the world around me.
Did not do that.
No.
And then, like, I don't want to give too much away in case somebody wants to go and see it, but like,
don't from what I'm hearing.
There are characters in it that were in the other films that don't seem to be like the characters that were in the other films.
Mm-hmm.
There are robots or machines, let's say, that are in this film that are updated CGI that look worse than the original trilogy robots. It just.
So what I'm hearing is there was no resurrection. I
did not like it. I can't say that I did because I did not like it.
Look, it was always a gamble, let's be honest, and that whole cleverer than everyone else kind of approach that the movie started to go down, honestly didn't really fly well with me anyway. No. So I was always a little bit nervous.
The ending of this one kind of even flies in the face of the original storyline anyway. It's like, no.
Well, now we know better.
Yeah. Anyway, the other thing that I have been watching, the last one that I'll talk about, is the Book of Boba Fett. And the first thing that I really want to say, we're up to episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
For God's sake, calm your dicks, people. Like, really, the amount of hate that I am seeing online about this show, and even that I am getting in conversations with my friends.
I haven't seen it, so it's not me.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Hold on 2 secs.
No.
There we go. I'm preparing my throat.
That's what I like about you. Come prepared.
Lubricate up when needed. I'm seeing a lot of hate. I'm seeing a lot of they should have left him lie. It takes away the mystery of the character. Blah 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 blah. We're 4 episodes into a 7-episode series. Like they have been setting things up in episodes that they will obviously finish up by the end of it. Have a bit of faith. Watch the whole fucking thing if you want to. Don't watch the thing. I don't care. Like, there's no skin off my nose. But don't complain about things because you haven't seen where they're taking them. Like, just irritates the hell out of me. I, for one, am fully enjoying it. It's easy watching. It's like a bit of fun. I don't care that Boba is now an old guy with actual backstory and history. You know, that
was he only a likable character because we knew nothing about him, so he could be
that's
anything
what
we
some
wanted
of the,
it to be?
This is what some of the articles are saying. And that he was a sort of a buffoon who got himself killed in the stupidest way possible in Return of the Jedi, and that's his charm. I don't think so. Look, I'm really loving it. Episode 3 had one of my favorite actors in the world as a person, and I know this for a fact because I've met them, pop up totally unexpected to me, and I was just like, as soon as I saw him on screen, I was like, yay. And then episode 4 is pretty much about Boba getting his ship back. And I had this fairly lengthy conversation with a customer today about this, amongst other things. But one thing I noticed in the episode is that he calls his ship his fire spray, which is technically correct. The fire spray is the type of ship that it is, but like, it's really obvious that Disney are completely getting rid of the name Slave One in any way, shape, or form, which is kind of disappointing. Understandable, but disappointing.
Yeah, no one's really surprised by this.
No, but look, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I got to see Slave One drop one of those fucking depth charges that just were like the only decent thing about Attack of the Clones when they went off in space, and they're just the sudden silence and then the just boom of when they explode.
So, all right, let's take a step back. So I am not by any stretch of the imagination a super Star Wars buff. Yeah, I'll watch the movie, especially the original 3. Like, and I've watched the rest, or most of the rest. I haven't actually. I don't think I'm up to date. Not important.
Not important. Some of them, yes. Like Rogue One. Have you seen Rogue One?
Yes.
Rogue One is probably one of the better ones out of all of them.
That was the first one where they returned Luke Skywalker as...
No. That was Force Awakens. Rogue One is set just before New Hope. And it's the story of how a group of people get the plans for the Death Star off.
Oh, yes. No, totally seen that too.
Yeah, cool.
Totally seen it, and it was memorable.
Yeah.
So
obviously.
I don't know, so all right, that's some context. Mandalorian, I eventually watched and actually thoroughly enjoyed, and I feel like it was because it was actually a really good story and a really good character that just happened to be in the Star Wars universe. honestly never fully understood the Boba Fett infatuation that a lot of people have, given that he was kind of this weird sort of, third, rate character in the movie that didn't really do a whole heap, didn't really
No,
have
he
this
didn't.
massive
He didn't
story.
do much. Like
No,
but he was cool. He looked cool. Like I've
absolutely
always liked the bad guys better.
the
And
costuming
he,
is cool.
yes,
The general concept of him cool, and he didn't really have enough of a part in the movies to have something to dislike
yes,
apart from getting eaten. Um,
yes.
so
I
I
remember
mean,
taking such offences of that as a kid that the Sarlacc actually belched after Boba Fett, my favorite character, going down.
yeah.
Anyway,
So I mean, I suppose that's kind of the context from where I'm coming from, and what I'm hoping is Book of Boba is actually more like The Mandalorian
mhm.
in that they have to address connecting it to the movie somehow, right? You've got to kind of throw that in, but I'm actually hoping it's just more about fleshing out this character and making it a character rather than just pandering to fanboys that, you know, that's kind of where I'm hoping.
It's pretty much that. Like,
Great.
really,
Everybody
what it
wins.
is
Stop your bitching.
you've seen Mandalorian season 2. Obviously, you saw
Yep.
this the shot at the end of Mandalorian, like the
Mm-hmm.
post-credit scene where Boba Fett goes up to Jabba's old palace.
Yep.
Okay, and takes the throne. This is that. So it's pretty much Boba trying to be a better Jabba, a
Yep.
better gangster without being the gangster. So sort of running the town, but not through fear, but through a bit of force, maybe. But just he doesn't want
Yeah.
to be a bounty hunter. He wants to be his own man.
Yeah. All right. I'm interested. I'm curious. I haven't got around to it yet, but it's on the to-do list one
Yeah,
day. Um,
it's interesting, and like, so you've got this whole him trying to weave his way around sort of gangster politics, let's say, but you've also got him trying to heal himself because, I mean, he starts off in the Sarlacc pit, really,
mm-hmm.
and first episode, you have a lot of scenes in the first couple of episodes where he is lying in a bacta tank, regenerating himself, getting his skin better, getting back to 100% because he's been on Tatooine for a while, and he's been in the stomach of a Sarlacc pit, and every time he's in this tank, he's having flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So, first episode all about him escaping the Sarlacc and what happens to him after that, and then it continues on. It's also a bit of history, and that history is making him into the character that he is now, rather than the character he was in the films.
Okay, so we're actually progressing, which is kind of
Yes.
cool. It's not because the other danger I was worried about is it a history of everything up until the movies, because that's kind of I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be okay, but
I wouldn't mind seeing some sort of Empire type memories from him. I mean, there's been a couple of flashbacks where you see him as a kid, so sort of Attack of the Clones type time. But for the most part, those flashbacks have all been set after Return of the Jedi.
okay.
So I'm enjoying. Look, what can I say? I'm really enjoying it. I'm not taking it too seriously. I'm not worrying about the Power Rangers colors that the speeder bikes had in episode
There's
3.
a lot of that bouncing around, isn't there?
There's a lot of hate. There is so much hate for this show going around, and
And
I'm
look, I
like,
feel like it was always a danger with this show, with this character, with this everything, that there is this really kind of unbridled enthusiasm that someone was not going to be happy with what you did, no matter what you did.
there are distinct levels of, let's say, fanboys that will create fuss about this is not the way I have it in my head.
Mm-hmm.
and will be very outspoken about it. For Star Wars, that group tends to be so much bigger than anything else. Maybe it's because the whole Star Wars fan base, maybe it's still the same sort of percentage, but with Star Wars, you hear the bitching so much more.
Yeah, and look, it's
And I'm sick of
honestly
it.
the other half of that is the bandwagoning that comes with it, because you have a group that fundamentally feel like this, and then you have a much larger group, I think, of people who really like bitching and really like mocking things and really like a bandwagon.
Yeah.
So it's just, everybody onto the pile.
Look, and thing is for me, like, seriously, if you want to watch it, watch it. If you don't want to watch it, that's up to you. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to tape you
might.
down. Yeah, look, yeah, Jace might, but I'm not going to. But like, yeah, just the amount of people that get upset about something that is like a couple of minutes in a scene and is obviously more to come. There's more to that story than, just that 5 minutes, for example. Just fucking, if you're going to make a judgment when you've seen the whole lot, really. That's all I
Then
got
it
to
might
say.
be informed. I won't stand for this. I don't want informed judgments. I just want to
Bitch about things on the internet.
Thank you.
Look, if you want to bitch about things on the internet, there are plenty of free spots on our Facebook group where you can bitch about us.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah.
Please. I want to have that fight. I haven't had a good internet fight for a while.
But that's it from me. You got anything else you want to add?
No, that's about all I have to say about everything.
Yeah. Well, before we go, I do want to shout out again painting competition going to the end of February. Black, white, 2 colors of your choice. Mix away to make other colors and paint whatever you want. We're having a bit of fun with it. I'm enjoying it so far. I've seen some progress shots, which is good, but there are prizes, people. There are prizes to be given away. Like, jump on board if you've got nothing better to do. If you've got some hobby mojo, which currently is low on my self, but jump on board, have a bit of fun, join us.
I'm super keen to see what some people come out with. I really enjoy any of those kind of events that give you some restrictions on what you can and can't do. I actually find the bits that are enabling. Like, if you give me everything in the world to choose from, I die of analysis paralysis. So you start pulling those things back and restricting what I can do. I'm on board. Still don't know what the fuck I'm painting, but I'm definitely on board. So that is step 1 of the things you can get involved in. Step 2,
perhaps even more importantly.
Ooh, baby. Thoughtless Bowl. So 5th of February, throw the dice. Blood Bowl 7s. We're half full at this point in time?
Over. We have 20 possible spots. We have a definite 11 and what's looking like an almost certain 12.
True. So spots are filling. It's going to be a fun ass day. I'm super keen. Super pumped to get some people playing some Blood Bowl. Watch the stupidity that is 7s rock out, and it should be super cruisy. Like, no one's playing for sheep stations. It's going to be nice and relaxed. Get some new people into the game, which is really what it's all about, and just get some games being played and being involved in kind of a tournament event kind of scene. Just the atmosphere. Just kind of getting there with a bunch of people pumped to play the same game. I'm I can feel it.
We're excited. We're big Kev excited.
It is in my waters. So beyond that, so they're the 2 things you can definitely get involved in. All of the information I will link to. It's on Facebook. There are events. Just let us know. Get involved. Sign up. Heckle in the Facebook groups. And then finally, just how you can, the other way you can get involved, I suppose, if you do want to get involved even further, a couple of things. So you can purchase things with our little friendly Thoughtless Casual Gaming logo on it via Spreadshirt. There's a world of things you can purchase.
It's incredible the amount of variety they've got on there.
Oh, it's silly. You can get so many things. So I would love to see the most creative, ridiculous thing that somebody decides to put the logo on, because you can pretty much bang it on whatever the hell you want. I'm pretty sure there's TCG Merkins kicking around.
Do we want to see those?
I absolutely.
All right.
I will not stand for it. So you can do that. Brett's still doing a fair amount of streaming on the Twitches.
I am. I've been doing a little bit recently. I've had a couple of games. Ironically enough, 2 games that I recently played, I used the same tagline because I could. I played a game called Firewatch, which is all sort of a storyline game about you being in a tower, watching a national park, looking out for signs of fire.
I really dug that. Like,
it was interesting.
For a while.
Yeah,
the story hooked me.
Mm.
Like, I was actually super keen to see what happened and how it was going to play out. That was groovy.
Really easy. And then the other one I played was Ember, which is kind of like a multiplayer, like not Fortnite-y, but like very cartoony game. Where you are all firefighters.
I was getting old school Nintendo Wii vibes.
Yeah, like that sort of graphics, and you're playing a firefighter, and you're going to go into houses and rescue things and shit like that. I just like the fact that I could use the tagline "Fire!" Fire! Hope to hear from you soon. Sincerely, Moss. But yeah, like, doing a bit more on Twitch, and God knows when Rainbow is up and running, I will definitely be doing some on that.
Nice. And then beyond that, if you really want to get involved, Patreon.
Yep.
That is the other thing.
Join us on the Patreons. Throw us a bit of dosh. We will use that dosh to buy prizes for everyone and include you in the prize draws automatically. And the other thing I was going to say, I haven't run this past you yet, but even the painting competition, I reckon we're going to have one prize, which is for all entries plus Patreons get an entry.
Yep.
So
I like it.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And there is all kinds of levels that you can pledge to. So it's very much there's options there. Super appreciated to everyone. Who is happy to support us. Happy is maybe the wrong term. Willing. But the goal there is to definitely give back as much as we possibly can.
Oh yeah, look, all that money is going straight into prizes and all sorts of stuff that we're trying to do for you. So it's 100% of those funds are going back to you guys. We don't need them. We're happy to keep as amateur as we are.
And we hope that's part of the rustic charm that you enjoy.
So yeah, Facebook, Spotify, Podbean, Twitch, Patreon, Twitbean.
There it is.
Pornhub. Whatever you want to follow us on.
OnlyFans. Yeah. Get involved, guys. That's all I've got today anyway.
That's it from me, and it's it from him.
And it's from them. And maybe from us.
That's a very old throwback, which you might be too young for. It's good night from me, and it's good night from him. Good night.
On that note, good night.
Laters.
Casual gaming. Thoughtless casual gaming. It's hard to say if it's hard to play when you don't know the rules of the game.
yeah, yeah.